Welcome to Pretty Entrepreneurs. This is the series that pulls back that curtain on small business ownership, but from a woman's perspective. And this isn't about polished success stories or overnight wins. It's truly about the grit, the late nights, and that messy middle where dreams are often fought for and won. I'm Alicia Polk, founder and CEO of Hustle on Sunday. And in Hustle on Sunday, I believe that true success is crafted through prayer and faithful obedience to the unique gifts that God has given us all. It's a journey through struggles, through doubts and triumphs, but pretty entrepreneurs, we are not just building businesses over here. We're building a lifelong sisterhood which is grounded in love, peace, support, and a shared purpose. If you have a story worth sharing and you want to promote your business, I'm currently accepting additional pretty entrepreneurs to join the tribe. So head to the website that you see on your screen or just contact me directly at info@hustleonsunday.com. And let's build something pretty together. Hi, everybody. So today I have with me Michele Jackson Gaines. Hi, Michele. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I appreciate you accepting, and I'm so excited to hear your story.
Well, thanks for having me, Alicia. I'm really looking forward to this. And so I'm
Abs-
glad to be with you today.
Absolutely. You don't think entrepreneurship is possible unless you have faith because it has its ups and downs, which I'm sure you can attest to, and we'll talk about all of that. But we'll just jump right in. Tell me what made you decide to even start your own business? Were you working for someone before? Because you've been an entrepreneur about 25, 30 years, am I correct?
Probably closer to 40 plus
Oh
years,
my goodness. Yes, we got to share
probably.
this. This is going to be good.
Well, here's how it all started. First of all, I grew up in a family of small business owners.
Okay.
I had the influence around me of other business owners in my life. And so I was surrounded with family members and others that influenced my thinking about becoming a business owner. I think at a very young age, I always knew that I wanted to be on my own, but I didn't have any idea of what I would do or what kind of business I would operate. Would I try to manufacture widgets? What would I do? I had no clue. And when I got out of school, the very first job I had, I was so excited. I was getting my very first professional paycheck. I got that very first check and I was so excited. Everything just went, wait a second. I looked at this check and it had all these little boxes on it. I was like, who is FICA and why am I giving them all this money? I had no idea about taxes. Now,
Okay.
my family, as I just said, they were professional people. So they paid taxes, they did their tax returns and whatnot. I was 22 years old and I was like, okay, it took me all of about 5 minutes to realize that if I didn't get an understanding of this tax thing, my entire life would spin out of control. It just clicked. My entire
Wow.
life is going to be based on this tax thing.
Yeah.
So I know it doesn't sound like anything fanciful, but when you don't have your tax life in order, your life is out of control.
You decided very early on that you wanted to know everything you could about taxes. You wanted to
That is
be
correct. I'm not from Pittsburgh. I didn't grow up here.
okay.
But I found my way. I asked somebody about where is the tax office. And I found my way into downtown Pittsburgh. And I walked into IRS.
I
And
love it.
said, how can I help you? I said, everything you know, I need to know. Back then, they taught you anything. It didn't matter. So I went and I went and I went and I went and I learned and studied and studied and studied and finally figured out how to manage my tax life between January and December.
Wow.
And when I did that and people could see what I was doing and how that was moving me forward, they said, will you teach me how to do, can you do this? Can you help me? And I said, be happy to help you for $50.
I know that's right. So you have many businesses. Let me just clarify for the audience. You are not, so you're a tax professional, okay?
Right.
What else do you do, Michele? What other entrepreneurial ventures have you engaged yourself in over the years?
All over the years, I became the owner of the Miss Pittsburgh pageant. When my daughter was 13, she got involved in Miss Black Teenage that was owned and operated by Jean Bryant, who is now deceased. And she started competing, and what we discovered was she began to understand things about herself. She started developing into a young lady, and she began to think differently. My youngest son is 7 years older than she is, and and she wanted to look like them, dress like them, talk like them, walk
Wow.
like them. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get through the teen years with this girl? But that's how we got through the teen years. Pageantry got us through. She grew. She started winning competitions. She spent 7 years doing the Miss America pageant. She never became Miss America, but Miss America is a scholarship organization. And so you don't ever have to become Miss America to win lots of money.
Just for people who
Yeah,
are going to see this video, they may have a child or a daughter that they're working with. And I believe entrepreneurship can also be managing your child's career.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely.
so if there's a young woman watching or a woman watching and she has a daughter or daughters,
Mhm.
you are saying that they are interested in pageantry, they could make money without winning?
They absolutely, by her continuing to compete, they give you $200-300 just for showing up. Then you can win a talent award, fresh new talent. You can win the swimsuit award. You can win the best gown award. You can win,
Okay.
one year she went to Miss Pennsylvania and she won enough money to pay the rent on her college apartment for the whole year.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
That is amazing.
Right. She kept saying, Mommy, I just want to be Miss America. I'm like, girl, I don't care if you ever become Miss
I'm
America.
telling you. Where did your faith come in during all of this?
You have to be principled. You have to have standards. You have to not fall for everything. You can't,
Mm.
because it will not serve you. It will lead you down the wrong path.
Oh my gosh. I think all entrepreneurs need to hear that. You're exactly right. You have to stand for something or fall for everything as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it will help you when you are talking to people or someone is talking to you and they're trying
Hmm.
what I call feed you a bunch of wolf tickets, you'll recognize it if you've got standards. If you're a principled person, you know what I
I love
mean?
it.
You can't, you're like, okay, well, take that, going across the street with it, because it won't fly here.
Yeah.
You have to have
Wow.
standards. You have to have standards. Right, right.
So
So
you did the tax professional, you did
mhm.
Miss Pittsburgh pageantry. Any other entrepreneurial endeavors?
Years ago, when I started my first business, it
Hmm.
wasn't a tax business, it was like a word processing business. But
Wow.
I went into business with a corporate attorney. This guy had was an attorney for Burger King and he wanted his own business. And he went to the powers that be and said, I want you to give me $50,000 so I can start my own law firm. And they gave it to him.
That's
And
bold.
he started,
Whoa.
I know, I was like blown away. As he started his own law firm, he asked me to set up my business in his offices so that I could handle all of his legal work. And I said, oh, that sounds like a good way to start. And then he took me, so that I would know what I was doing, he took me into a law library and taught me how to use the law library. And then he began to talk to me about, you should really go to law school. And I was like, I never wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to go to law school. But
You're amazing.
fast forward, as I continued to work and talk to people, everybody kept saying, you need to be a lawyer. So I thought, maybe I should start to listen to what they're saying. And so I did, and I started trying to prepare for law school when I was working and I got up from my desk to go get a cup of coffee and I looked up at a window and it was like God was standing right there. He said, I do
Mm.
not want you to be a lawyer. That was good enough for me. I accepted it because He made us. He knows us. He
Hmm.
knows my heart. He knows that I give Him the glory, and He knows that I'm going to do what He tells me to do because He's He knows how to protect me. I don't know how to protect myself. He knows how to protect me. So when that happened, I was like, okay. And people today still say, you need to go to law school. And I just look at them and say, no way. I will never go to law school.
So
No.
how'd you go back to the gentleman that you were working? Was it a hard conversation to have with him when the guy who kind of nudged
He,
you?
it was hard for him. It wasn't hard for me. It wasn't hard for me. He was like, I don't understand. He said, if you need money, the firm will pay for it. And I'm like, no, no, not
Whoa.
doing it, not doing it. Um,
Obedience is a big part of this
absolutely.
journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to know. And how do any of us know what obedience is? I always felt like I was obedient until one day I heard a message and it was like, am I obedient? And I prayed and I said, you know what, Father, please teach me, show me what obedience looks like. And I walked outside and I walked to the corner and I looked up and the red hand was up. And I thought, and I said, don't cross the street. If you cross this street when that hand is up, you're
Hmm.
being obedient. So he taught me just in that very short period of time, that little prayer, he used that traffic light to show
Wow.
me what obedience looks like.
Mm.
And I'd stand there and people would be standing there next to me and then they would start to cross the street and I would stand right there and wait for the white walk light to come on.
Mm. That's powerful. Like there's so many people that would have been like they did the prayer and now they're waiting for God. I mean, he would have answered in a different way, but you
Mhm.
were literally seeking an answer from
I was
God.
seeking an answer, and
Hmm.
he didn't keep me waiting for that. He showed
Mm.
it to me. He said, "That's what obedience looks like." I never set out to get involved in the pageant world, but
Oh,
for she said, "Well, will you at least talk to the director?" And I said, I'll do that because she was a good girl. She did everything I asked of her. And so I called Jean Bryant. Jean spent maybe 45 minutes with me on the phone explaining to me that this was a developmental program. So the first year, she played. She's a classical violinist, and so she played violin, and she came in second runner up out of 56 girls. And then the third year she went back, she actually won the title of Miss Black Teenage. And from that point forward, she won a title every year for the next 7 or 8 years. She
that's
never stopped
awesome.
winning. She was beating girls that were 22, 23, 24 years old when she started with Miss America. But it gave me the incentive to share that with others,
Okay.
share what we had. So I actually wrote a book. It's on Amazon. It's been out there for a long time. It's called Preparation for Winners. Um, and it helps a young lady understand what how to get ready for a competition. So
Wow.
this manual absolutely trains you on how to eliminate your competition.
Give
How
us
to
give us some
win.
insights on that, Michelle. Give us like one or two pointers, one or two teasers. How do
One of
we as
the
entrepreneurs eliminate competition? Because I think those same principles still play into entrepreneurship. I know it's specific to pageantry, but
absolutely
we're competing, right? I mean, we don't get
we're
into
competing.
entrepreneurship just to do it. What advice can you give women who are entrepreneurs to eliminate that competition?
You okay. You start with yourself, and you first of all, people when a person looks at you, you want them to see the professional that you are.
Wow.
I don't care if you're going to the mailbox. You don't go unless you're dressed. You don't go to the grocery store in blue jeans and tennis shoes. You don't step outside your door unless you are dressed.
Mm.
People will treat you the way you look. So that's the first thing.
And what's number two? I don't want to steal too much from your book. People need to go buy it, but I'm already like, okay, as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to go order this book.
It's basically just a continuation of the same thing. It doesn't mean that you're not nice to people.
Yeah.
Okay, you can still go over and introduce yourself. And when you do, when they see that shows confidence, shows that you've got that self-confidence. When you
Mm.
walk up to someone and say, "Hi, my name is Michelle. What's your name?" And with a smile, always with a smile, okay?
Okay.
And then uh, then they may start stuttering. They may start, well, my name is, and they may forget and so forth. Take your time, honey. It's okay.
Yeah, I love it. But I don't think people think about it. I don't think they think of themselves that way. Or it also takes strategy and it takes pre-planning, right? So
And
like,
it takes practice.
yeah, I
It
mean,
takes
so
practice.
you're
You
gonna have
have
me
to
all
practice.
together for this trade show I'm doing.
You have to practice. You have to, um, my daughter, people say, um, practice makes perfect.
Hmm.
People say practice makes perfect. Well, my daughter and I recoined that phrase to say practice makes permanent. Because if you
Mm.
are practicing something incorrectly, you will permanently do it incorrectly. So you have
Wow.
to practice. Everything that you do has to be practiced with perfection. It has to be accurate. You have to know what it is you're doing. You've got to show that confidence. And if you are, first of all, like I said, your appearance is everything. It is everything. That's where it starts. So when I go out, my girlfriends will say, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "To the grocery store," because I'm dressed.
Hey,
Right.
everybody, just so you know, I work with Michelle. I've met her in person and she is sharp. She is sharp. So I got to give credit where credit's due. And I will tell you what you're saying is accurate because when I first walked in your office for the first time, because we were going to do some business, and
Mhm.
I didn't know you. I didn't even know what you looked like. I was like waiting for
Right.
you to come to the door. This beautiful woman comes to the door and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, where am I at the Taj Mahal, number one? So then I go into your office and I couldn't help but I'm like, your office is blinged out. You
Oh
have
yeah.
the whole package like put together. You're like, give me a couple minutes, let me put together your invoice. And I'm like, I don't care what this woman get my business because you just you made me feel comfortable. And I'm going to be honest with you because I walked in and just your atmosphere, the way you approached, the way you were dressed, the way your office, and all I could do is look at your office like this. I'm like looking around like, oh my God. I mean, it was just beautiful and it was welcoming. I felt peace there.
Yeah.
And then I quickly saw that you were a woman of faith.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
I noticed that off the top. So you don't hide that part. You keep that on the forefront too.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship is not always pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. The term of this series and this podcast I'm doing is called Pretty Entrepreneur, but really when I started down this path, I wanted to talk about the not so pretty sides. And then it evolved into like something different, but I still
Mhm.
tickle the not so pretty. Tell us about the parts of your entrepreneurial journey that weren't pretty.
Well, learning what to do and how to do it is not attractive.
Mm,
That's just not it's not attractive. It's
okay.
necessary because 90% of running and owning a business is paperwork. It starts normally in your personal life,
Okay.
okay? And if you treat your personal life respectfully with principles and standards, then you will treat your business the exact same way.
Okay.
You can't fool yourself into believing, well, I can let that slide. Yeah, you can, but it's not going to serve your purposes.
Mm,
It's going to keep you from moving to the next level, to the next step. So, when I look back, when I first started, um, there weren't uh, a lot of things that I would do differently because I had a plan. I knew, but I also knew that I was in a company where there were managers and supervisors and division um, monitors and all kinds of different upper level business people
mm-hmm.
that I could learn from.
Mm-hmm.
So I set a goal for myself from the time that I walked into that job. I set a 10-year goal. I said, I want to learn how this business operates. What do they do? What kind of reports are they putting together? And why are they putting these reports together?
Wow.
How are they managing the running of this business. So I watched them, and then I would talk to them. I would, get a chance to ask certain questions and so forth. And I took notes.
Mm.
And then I looked up things, and then I read about things and so forth. So that was my plan. And I gave myself 10 years. I said, in 10 years, I want to go from this is the entry level position of this company. In 10 years, I want to be the person at the top.
Wow.
And in 10 years, I had the second in command position. So it worked.
Yeah.
And then I moved out of Pennsylvania and when it moved into Florida.
Okay.
And actually became the director of the Urban League in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, wow. So you, beyond entrepreneurship, you've held some pretty high roles. I mean, the Urban League is a prestigious organization. It's nationally recognized and known. They do a lot for people of color. I mean, the list goes on and on and on with what the Urban League can assist you with. But do you think any of that experience, not just from the Urban League, but just your professional experience, was there any of that you were able to borrow and pull into your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was still not on my own at that time. I was still working. I was at the top, but I was still working for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I left the Urban League and became the director of the Broward Economic Development Corporation. Wow. Now that felt more like my own, even though I had a board of directors. 30 days after they hired me, their funding dried up. And the board members, they didn't know what to do. So I started making phone calls and I started talking to people. And I ended up flying up to Jacksonville and meeting with Wally Orr, who is now deceased as well, who at the time was the Secretary of Labor for the state of Florida.
Wow.
And I negotiated a $500,000 contract with him. So
you just blow my mind. I'm sitting here like, okay.
I came back with enough money to run the organization. Right in the middle of all of that, my dad died. And that just really, that hurt me so badly.
Oh,
so
wow.
I ended up leaving Florida and coming back to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
When I did, all of my contacts here had dried up. So I didn't know anybody. So I'm going to try to start a business.
Wow.
Because at that point, I felt like I knew enough to get started. And it was successful. But I don't know anybody. So now I've got to start over. I felt like I had to go back to the beginning. Now, was it disappointing? Absolutely not. Because as a woman of faith, I know that if I'm patient enough, Jehovah God knows what direction I'm going in.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows, I know how much he has taken me, where he has taken me all these years. I've gone up and up and up and up and up. All I have to do is be patient and continue and come in, and I'll start here and I'll just be there and I'll continue to be there and I'll grow and grow and grow. The part of it that I feel it was definitely divine intervention was the company going almost belly up 30 days after they hired me. And they were all, oh, Michele, we're so sorry we got you into this job. Because they came and got me from the Urban League. They wanted me to be.
Oh, wow.
Director. And they came and they convinced me to leave the Urban League to come help them. And I said yes. And so they were all really, can't believe we lost our funding. And it didn't bother me. I wasn't upset about it. I felt like, okay, let's just fix it. I did what I always do, turn to prayer, and when you start to take one step forward, he's right there with you. He tells us in Isaiah 41, I will hold on to you with my right hand.
Wow.
Okay, so he's right there. And he did. And so I began to talk to people, and that's how I got to know what was going on within the Department of Labor in Florida, how I found out about they had money and they didn't have anybody to give it to. And I said, well, let me go get some of this money. So things just started to fall in place. When something happened and you're looking for an answer. You're looking to go and do something. When
Mm-hmm.
it starts to fall in place, you know that you're in the right direction. Now, if I
Got it.
had started and it wasn't falling in place, I'd have had to fall back. I said, I can't force this. I have to wait. If one of the things that I have learned in my life is that you have to be patient.
Mm.
God is a patient God. If He will always answer you, He will tell you yes, He will tell you no, or He will tell you not yet.
Okay.
So when
Okay.
He says no, back away,
Yeah.
back away.
Yep.
I always say you have to be grateful for the people and things that He puts in your life, but you have to be equally as grateful for the things that He takes away.
It is so hard, especially when you're just starting out as an entrepreneur. You're like a needle in a haystack. So then all you really have at that point, in my opinion, is prayer and God. And then to your point, patience.
You
Um,
have to be patient and you have to know, you have to listen to His voice. You have to know whose voice you're listening to
mm.
because Satan will be talking to you as well. He'll be
How do
saying,
you
oh, go.
distinguish, Michelle? How do you tell how were you able to tell the difference? I mean, what's your practice for knowing it's God versus a dark force?
It's peace. There's a peaceful feeling about
Okay.
what I'm listening to, and I don't have any anxiety. There's nothing
Mm.
welling up
That's
in
good.
me. There's
That's good.
nothing pushing me, telling me, you need to do this. You need to do this. Do this. Do this. No, I don't listen to that voice. I listen to the peaceful voice and how he makes me feel inside. So
Mm.
and it always works. It
Ah,
always works.
so
It
everybody
always works.
listening that, is a Christ believer, you
Yes.
need to know that anxiety voice, which I get it. I still get that anxiety voice. In fact, matter of fact, a couple of days ago, I was working on a project and I
Uh-huh.
kept feeling this nagging, like go, go, go. And I didn't feel right about it. I'm like, why am I feeling so
Mm,
your spot, that is the truth. And then later that day, I spoke to my pastor and she said, well, whatever decision you make, Alicia, you have to feel peace.
right.
And I was thinking one part of this thing, I didn't feel peace, but the other part I did.
Hmm.
That's how I knew, Michelle. That's how I knew.
That's how you knew. And that's how I always know. If I'm working on something and it's not coming together, I will walk away in a
Mm,
heart. I will just walk away from it because it means if I have to struggle, if this is a struggle, if this is a hardship, and it feels like oh, tightening up. I feel myself tightening up. Then I
hmm.
walk. I don't go down that path because I know it's not for me.
Wow. You
Not
probably
for me.
saved yourself so much, and I appreciate that advice. Any last words? I'm definitely like looking forward to this one going up because I think so many women are going to benefit from this discussion. You shared a lot, but is there anything that you think that you want to just share with women that are in this entrepreneurial thing and it's hard, it's not as easy, but just keep
Well,
going.
start your routine and make sure that you're disciplined about your routine. You can't do it on Monday and then don't do it on Tuesday.
Mm,
You can't tell yourself, well, I'm going to start by giving 30 minutes a day to this activity. And then on Tuesday, you only give it 10 minutes.
yeah.
Okay. That's not being disciplined. Okay. That's not being principled because if you're that easily distracted, then when things really get to be tough, you're not going to be ready. So your faith is like a muscle. You
Okay.
gotta exercise that muscle. So when you may not be using it today, but one day you're gonna need that muscle. And if you haven't worked it, if you haven't practiced, if you
Mm,
haven't been disciplined and worked that muscle the way you need it to work it, when you need it, it's not going to be there.
that's good. What's your routine, Michelle? We'll end on this note.
Well, first of all, I start my day every day with a prayer, of course. Okay. And I also, after I have my prayer, I also do a Bible reading, just a small amount, different texts out of the Bible and so forth. And it sets my day. It sets
Okay.
me up for my day. I also use a journal. I use a journal. Okay. And my journal, I put a prayer. I start my day with a prayer in my journal and
Mm,
ask for divine guidance in helping me to address what I need to get done in that day and to do it in such a way that it glorifies God. So if I'm glorifying him, if I'm asking him to be with me each and every day and giving him the glory, then it works.
wow. I appreciate you, Michelle. Thank you so much for this.
Well, this was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. I hope your viewers will get something out of it.
Oh,
And
yes. I
I was,
appreciate you. I do. I do. I do. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
So, as we close today's conversation, remember entrepreneurship isn't always pretty, but it is always worth it. That courage to keep going, the sisterhood we're building, oh, and the businesses we've created are living proof that when women collide with their God-given purposes and we come together, we're completely unstoppable. So, thank you for joining me on Pretty Entrepreneurs. For more unfiltered stories, resources, or if you yourself are ready to share your own journey, visit the link on your screen to learn more about becoming part of the Pretty Entrepreneurship series. Behind every successful business lies a story of hustle, heart, and sisterhood. We'll see you next time.